on the dial can definitely listen to the playback for sure, for sure. But again, we got DJ Coco. Introduce yourself so that we can jump right into the conversation.
Yeah, so I am originally from Uptown New York, so it's great to be in Uptown Philly. I'm a Harlem girl originally, been in PA for a minute though. And so I'm an organizer, community activist. I'm the founder of the Marion Lawrence Foundation. It has a mission to develop young excellence in Philly, Montgomery County, and the Collier counties. So, and a DJ, of course, here on WJYN 98.5 FM. And I heard you shout out Big Cuz.
For sure.
Shout out to you, ma'am.
Yes. And Coco, one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on is because we are in a very crazy but not unexpected political climate, right? I don't think many people who have been following what's going on, many people who have been paying attention and not necessarily getting distracted by the things that they so-called want us to pay attention to, have been following things for a long time. So we're not really too shocked about what's happening. I think if anything, we are more in an alliance of trying to figure out how we can create solutions to help people to better understand the climate and how they can distinguish what's happening between the misinformation and the disinformation and then just propaganda in general that's being put out there. And I know you do some reporting. You are a journalist in your own light, and when it comes down to just the conversations right now, how are you handling misinformation and disinformation and just propaganda?
So, in terms of the federal freeze, right, that just recently happened, that in the last 48, 72 hours came out from the White House and then was rescinded, there was a lot of confusion, for example, around the wording
Hmm.
of that memo that came out. So, really just going right back to the wording that we're looking at and reading the documents and not letting people tell us that our eyes don't see what is clearly in front of us.
Hmm.
Uh, so just making sure that we go back to the source documents and hold people accountable for what those documents say.
And when it comes down to just the back and forth, I think that what type of responsibility do you think, we have as media or being a
Mm.
part of the media, maybe not in traditional spaces, but what part as far as just the accountability and responsibility do we have as far as putting this information out, right? Because they put the information out and then let's just say in 24 hours it was retracted and we had to then not necessarily take back what we said the day before, but yeah, retract pretty much the things that we said and try to explain. It's on a hold. A judge did this. This is happening, and this is how. Like, I feel like we are putting ourselves into the midst of the chaos by reporting the chaos in a way in which is being put out to the public, right? Because this happened. So we want to go and tell people that this is happening because we know it's affecting our community because it's talking about federal funding, federal grants, all those good things. And then in 24 hours, we got to explain to our community that this is on pause because of a judge. And they're like, what? Can it happen again? Can all the judges do it? Like, like what accountability do you think we have as far as being a part of it?
That is a great question, and thank you so much for asking that. I think our most major role in that is to teach people that process and teach people the way that our government works, right? And when people know that, then they can start to distinguish and determine facts from fiction themselves. But there's a lot of lack of understanding in terms of the fact that we have three branches of government, right? And the fact that, for example, a president in a democracy cannot come out and make a proclamation that usurps the authority of Congress. So when you know that, then you won't, when you hear it, it sort of goes in one ear and out the other, and you
Mhm.
can process how you need to process it. Um, but we all need to be definitely reporting and staying on top of this White House and staying on top of the administration, because what this administration also likes to do is it understands, right, the news cycle, and
Yeah.
it understands better than I think any other administration prior to it. It understands exactly how the 24-hour news cycle works. So what
Hmm.
they do is they will drop an executive action in the middle of the night or at 8 p.m. at night when
Hmm.
nobody's paying it. to it. And so we as journalists really have to sort of stay on top of the White House, for example, .gov website and make sure that we are daily checking those executive actions that are coming out because they are coming out almost on a daily basis.
For sure, for sure. And technically, Coco, we're only 11 days in, right? 11 days into
I mean, that's the
um
worst part, right? Like,
we're only 11 days into this administration, and I feel
oh,
like he has rescinded so many things, redone so many things, took back so many things, replaced so many things. Um and he's doing exactly what he promised his voters that he's going to do. So when it comes down to just this DEI conversation, I feel like he fulfilled something that he told his voters that he was going to do. What's your thoughts on this? I was talking about it earlier this week, and I talked about it with one of our guests when it comes down to the DEI. I feel like we are so focused on the D and the I that we forget about the equity, which is the E. And I feel like if we focus more on the equity, we won't have these particular outbursts and feel like we need to boycott because we have been in a space where we made ourselves and our businesses and our products equitable to our consumers to want to spend the money with us, regardless if we're using our products or keeping our products housed in Walmart or Target. It doesn't matter, because we have the equity to keep our businesses, ourselves, as families together. But I wanted to know your thoughts because people group it together, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I think the three words have completely different meanings.
girl, I'm sitting over here, my hand shaking. And, oh, I can't wait to answer this question. Hold on. So let me see. The first thing in terms of your first question about how I feel, and also back to another question you asked about our role in reporting. Um, this notion that Trump said during the press conference about the plane crash, right? This notion that that was the first time that he had talked about DEI and aviation safety is not the case. If we go back and like I said, that whitehouse.gov website is important because if we go back and we look at that website, an executive action had come out on January 21st that addressed aviation safety, and DEI was blamed for the lack or the issues in aviation safety on the 21st prior to the crash.
Hmm.
It just started to be reported though when we didn't pick it up the first time, right? We didn't read that
And he
document.
and he went on that
And
narrative in his press conference too.
and he went on the narrative in the press conference almost like, y'all didn't hear me the first time. Oh, let me say it again in the most outlandish way so that you do pick up on what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Um, and he wants us to understand that DEI is not something that he, which I think a lot of us do understand, DEI is not something that he and his administration is looking to embrace. But we have to find it in the language, and the language has been out there from the administration for since 24 hours into the administration.
And another thing
Um,
that I want people to too, and I don't want to cut you off, Coco, but I just want people to understand that DEI deprived from what affirmative action was put in place to do,
right,
right? And
right.
it over time evolved into this terminology or this acronym of DEI. And I would consider that something to be popularized around the George Floyd, the uprising, when companies felt as though they wanted to be seen as a part of the cause and not something that was causing the cause to happen. So I think people are misconstruing, what it means to be in a office setting or a workplace, whether it's blue collar, white collar, or just a 9 to 5 setting, of what it means to be a part of these DEI initiatives. They're just initiatives that people are putting into place to try to better themselves as far as being a part of the cause. This is not like a law or anything that was put into place as saying like people have to be in a space of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I'm glad you brought up affirmative action because, to your point, a lot of what these companies would like to do is act as if they want to be with the Black community, but tiptoeing
They
around
want to be
being with the
down with the brown.
then calling it instead of affirmative action because oh that pisses people off and that scares people and that upsets people.
Exactly, exactly.
And let's include everybody, but everybody wasn't a part of the original issue. You
Conversation, yes.
That's the first thing. And then what we have to also understand as business owners is that, listen, this is the 15th year, 2025 is the 15th year of Shark Tank. Okay. There's no way, no reason for people not to understand that you can be a millionaire, right? Going direct to consumer. We don't necessarily need these shelves that you have to pay stocking fees to be a part of in order to be seen. We don't need that. We can, especially those of us that have platforms that are large enough to reach your consumers, sell your product. If your product is good enough, then people will buy it. And that's
Hmm.
just, we don't need to, necessarily deal with people who want to tiptoe around issues that involve our pockets.
Hmm. And Coco, I want to shift the conversation a little bit because, we got about 15 minutes left. And again, for those who tuning in, you're listening to two hosts and a DJ. She hosts and she DJs. She does journalism and broadcasting for us here at 98.5. So definitely make sure you find more information about what we have going on at the station at uptownradiophilly.org. You can always support by donating to our Cash App or just going direct to the website and clicking the donation tab. But Coco, I want to jump back in by talking about the ICE raids that we're seeing, right now going down in the nation. It's happening everywhere, specifically happening in the city of Philadelphia. Philadelphia is known to be a sanctuary city. So we do know that we have immigrants in our city, whether they're illegal or not. We know that we have them here in our city. So I want to just get your opinion about it. This executive order that our current president put in to deport, deport, deport. And that was, again, his promise that he had on the campaign trail.
I just want all of us to remember that we are on stolen land. You know, folks talking about this is our land when it's stolen land to begin with is wild work. So we just have to remember that first thing. Second of all, the question often comes up, well, why do they have to come over illegally? Why don't they just come over legally then? And then there would be no issue. And so that is the issue that has been a conversation politically for decades. Um, Making sure that the process to allow people to come into this country legally to seek asylum when the situation warrants it, that there is a logical and an actual process in place, and judges and social workers and resources and interpreters that are there to help those people when they need to come over, that just don't exist right now. So I really would encourage a lot of the activists to fill those roles and try. I know we can't necessarily just fill judges, right? But some of the more community centered organizations can really help with the interpreter work and the social work piece, because that's missing in our community. And it's missing in the immigration conversation and in the legislation. And it's something that people don't want to have added to the legislation because this is our land, but I want to go back to the original point, it's stolen. So
Hmm. So, I was having a conversation with our earlier guest, and one of the things that he was pointing out is that we, as freedmen, Black people, Black Americans, African Americans, however you want to, identify yourself, a person of color, we should continuously fight our own fight. This is not necessarily a fight for us, because when it comes down to the 14th Amendment was specifically enacted on the backs of enslaved people. So when we talk about or we open it up as far as a birthright or a citizenship right, the 14th Amendment was not necessarily enacted to save all races. It was specifically enacted to save enslaved Black people.
um so um facts, right? But then there are other people who are suffering as well. And listen, I'm in the county, right? And there's a lot of land up here. If you go drive north into Quakertown, into Bucks County, there's land that people can come and live in, because they are in situations where they need help. Like we would hope somebody would open the doors to us when if we needed help. And like we have done historically, and for example, World War II, gone in and helped other people that were in life or death situations. Because at the end of the day, right, my Blackness is a thing, but so is life. And I want everybody to be able to live. And why can't you be here? And a lot of that just goes back to selfishness and greed. And that's not an okay answer. So that's what I would say. That also, like I said, I'm in the county. And so we have 877,000, give or take, citizens here and residents here in Mako.
Mhm.
Black people are 10% of the population.
You talking about in
So
Delaware County?
in Mako, Montgomery
In
County.
Montgomery County, okay.
So, when you want to try to make changes legislatively outside of Philadelphia, where the majority of the population is Black, that all Black conversation doesn't necessarily exist mathematically outside of Philly in Pennsylvania. So,
Hmm.
we have to find strategies and conversations that include other people while not forgetting, the reason that we are here, which is, back to the original point, equity, for
Hmm.
everybody, for us all. So
So, when it comes down to just where we are right now, and this political climate, I feel like a lot of people I was talking literally, I've been having great conversations all day. Shout out to every guest that came through today. But my last guest, we were just talking about how people can be confused, right? As far as people of color, Black people, just being confused as to what to believe, as far as how to move, how to react and respond in this political climate. Do we stand up and fight? Do we become allies ourselves? We're used to having allies. We're not used to being the allies. So like, just in your opinion throughout the work that you're doing, do you have any advice for our folks who are listening?
yeah, unity is key, and so the backbiting and the I can only be the only one that succeeds, that mentality has to stop. And it absolutely must stop right now. Because we don't have time, and we don't have the numbers, like I said, outside of Philly, in some areas, to have that backbiting, sort of mentality. So unity is definitely going to be key. Um, and then being with organizations, right, that don't then the mission, right? Organizations that say that they're for Black people and then now suddenly are um, majority people of color.
Hmm.
I mean, if you if the mission for you is to be and uplift Black people, then find organizations that are going to continue, that are aligned with that mission, and then that are going to continue to align with that mission.
And my last question I want to ask you about this national conversation, and this is kind of a tedious question, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it on air, so I thought it would be a great question to bring up with you. And then I want to ask you a local question before I let you go. But when the current president was sworn in, he didn't put his hand on the Bible, right? And that's something that's kind of sort of been a tradition here in the United States. When a president is sworn in, they put their hand on the Bible. And this current president didn't do that, and nothing pretty much was done. It wasn't no action. He didn't have to redo it. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to do it again somewhere else and we're going to show the public that it happened. Um, he showed the public that he didn't have to do it, and then that was it. It wasn't really addressed. And I just wanted to ask you, what was your thoughts on that? Especially because you were out there on the campaign trails. You went to, the DNC here in Philadelphia. You were here when the debate happened in Philadelphia. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Um, Never in our history have in the history of America have we seen a president who has the understanding of Hollywood and the access to Hollywood and the full force of the United States government at the same time.
And
And
billionaires.
we
Don't forget about that one. He got
and
he got deep pockets.
and allegedly deep pockets. Um, so we're about to see that what that looks like right now. And so for me, as also a Christian, right, it was absolutely a stunt, right? Because you don't have to put your hand on a Bible. So you
Mm,
didn't have to have the Bible there. Yet you did it to perpetuate this image of you putting your hand on the Bible while at the
being a
same
bad
time
guy.
that's not what you're doing. So, it's just something for us to all take notice of and to understand that these, we have to look deeper than the images. right?
Mhm.
And the fact that that people even caught that, right? And the fact that he wasn't just that people weren't just believing that because the Bible was there, that his hand must have been on it, right? The fact that y'all caught it, that we caught it, that's amazing. And we have to keep doing that because and calling out these publicity stunts, because
Mhm.
that's really, to me, as a Christian, what it was.
Hmm. Some people say we shouldn't talk about it, because of that, like you said, he knows the news cycle, so he wants to get, the clickbait out of these things that he's doing. And we are definitely going to see a lot of clickbait because again, it's only been 11 days in, and the people are drained. Like it feels like 2020 all over again. Just turn the TV off, right? Just turn it off. But I wanted to talk to you about a local subject that happened this past Sunday. It was like in a celebratory mood because the Eagles is going to the Super Bowl. They just won the NFC East. And we all know Philadelphia is a city full of fanatics. They're going to go crazy. They love Philly. They bleed green, go green, right? But we had altercations where people were in critical conditions. We had altercations where one man died because of the pole. We had altercations where cars were vandalized. We had just so many different altercations that took place in the city during a celebratory moment. And I wanted to ask because it's happening again. So not this Sunday, I'm sorry, next Sunday on the 9th. It's not necessarily back in the city like how it was last week. It's in New Orleans, but just in general, if Philadelphia wins that Super Bowl, like how can we talk to, the people of the city and the people who are elected official of the city to make sure that the city is safe in these celebratory moments. We don't want to take away any of these moments from our people. We don't want to take any of these moments away from citizens and residents who love the Eagles or just our sports in general here in the city. But we want to keep it safe. How much trash was compiled the next day, on a Sunday when people had to go to work at City Hall. People had to, because, our mayor brought them back in office, right? So how many people had to go back into office on Monday? How many people had to go around all the trash and the barricades that took place because of, the chaos and celebratory moments that took place on that Sunday? But what do you think we can do to keep those moments? Because that is part of the rich history of Philly, but make sure it happens in a different way to keep everybody safe because we don't want cars running over people. We don't want people climbing poles and falling and, just changing the whole atmosphere.
I will remind Black people in particular that uh, during the signing of the Laken Riley Act, the president stopped to discuss the freeze that he had enacted. Um, During the press conference with regard to 67 people having lost their lives in the plane crash in DC, the president stopped, right, to take the time to talk about DEI. We could not kneel. All right. So my answer is I ain't watching it. I'm not watching the Super Bowl. We
Okay.
kneel.
You on your Colin Kaepernick. I understand what you mean. You on your Colin Kaepernick. I feel that.
I mean, so but with regard to what Mayor Parker can do with regard to getting people back into work um the next
Well,
day
just to
after
have
the Super Bowl.
just to have a safe city and when we are seeing celebratory moments within the city.
We got to keep that ice-like energy, right? I mean, if we can keep that energy for ice raids, and I know it's two different departments, right? But we can sort of learn how to model what we'd like to see from maybe what we don't like to see. So, we can look at what the ice raids are sort of doing and maybe model that for the day. Not obviously not rating people, but I mean just to show a force.
Well, we don't want to
But
intimidate people, Coco. We want them to come out and have fun, jump up and down and stuff. Like we want people to be people's people, right? But
please,
I just think that is talk to me. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Tell me what you're thinking.
so who's we? Because I said don't watch it. So
I love that too. I love that too. Well, I'm saying, I in community, I understand that we can't control everyone's thoughts or how they process things as far as what it means to be a part of the UNITY, right? But I'm just saying, when it comes down to this city in particular, it's going to happen. People are going to come out. People are going to jump up and down. People are going to, celebrate the way that Philadelphia fanatics celebrate. Do you think there's any way that we can change it to keep it safe, or you think it's just going to happen the way it's happening unless we do put out some intimidation for people to like, oh, I ain't doing that because the police over there or something like that.
So Philly, right? Like I call Philly the state of Philadelphia. You guys, Philly is really so unique. It is amazing to witness. I feel like Philly's gonna do Philly. Um, and I feel like, if we're gonna do it, then let people do what they're gonna do for those 24 hours. Then, if that's what you decide to do, and I've already made.
I'm with it. I'm with it. And my last thing I want to ask you before I let you go, and again, Coco, I appreciate you joining me here on 98.5 this evening on Revive Radio to just go down, the list of what's going on because there's so many things going on right now. And I would love to, bring you back on, invite you back on to have more just general conversation too. But right now, 98.5, I'm not sure if you know, but starting in the month of February, we're asking everyone who comes into the airways to share their story, whether they had a story within Uptown Philly or if they had a story with Uptown theater in general. As we're going into the month of love, February's month of love, so we are looking for people to share their stories. Do you have a story you would like to share with us about either Uptown Philly or just the Uptown theater?
So I will just share that I am so grateful to Monifa and our executive team, right, for giving um, my voice a platform. So that
Awesome.
is my story with WJYN 98.5 FM, Philly. That just the fact that I was able to start my platform here on this station.
I love it.
Um, I'm grateful and excited, and I know that we can all do big things, including cover the Eagles.
That part. How can people find you? Stay locked if you got website, social media, all that good stuff.
All right, y'all. Now listen, I'm not really the Instagram girl, so don't be laughing at me when y'all go on, but I am DJ Coco on the Instagram. It's how you can find me. It's either I am DJ Coco or I am DJ Coco 917. Like I said, I'm not the Instagram girly. But that's how you can find me and stay linked in.
No doubt. You already know what time it is, man. Every Friday, 98.5 WJYN. I appreciate you, Coco. I look forward to having you back on the show as well. Us make sure we stay connected and stay locked in as well. Have a good one.
P.O.C. Revive Radio. Thank you, Mama.
You already know, man. You already